This is the week where the State Department and Donald Trump decided that it was okay to arrest and detain on no charges a lawful green card holder who is married to a citizen for participating in a protest at Columbia University, and the week where Columbia University has not been able to stand up for them. And now immigration officials are arresting not just one, but two more people who participated in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia. Specifically, they are people with student visas. Federal immigration authorities arrested second person who participated in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. They've revoked the visa of another student, Leka Cordia, a Palestinian from the West Bank. Of course, they're all going to be Palestinian, right? But I mean, let's remember that some Jews feel unsafe. Feel unsafe. But yeah, let's have DHS arrest people with their 8-month pregnant wives next to them. Mostly Palestinians. Let's just remember, not that Palestinians also have not been in the crosshairs of vigilante violence. The 6-year-old outside of Chicago who was murdered, the young kid student wearing a keffiyeh in Vermont, I believe, who was paralyzed after being shot at from someone who saw that he was wearing a keffiyeh. A Palestinian from the West Bank was arrested by immigration officers for overstaying her student visa. Jesus Christ. Cordia's visa was terminated in January 2022 for lack of attendance. Sure, the department said. She was previously arrested for her involvement in protests at Columbia in April 2024. The Trump administration also revoked the visa of Ranjani Srinivasan, an Indian citizen and doctoral student at Columbia University, for allegedly advocating for violence and terrorism. Srinivasan opted to self-deport Tuesday, 5 days after her visa was revoked, the department said. Officials didn't immediately say what evidence they had that Srinivasan had advocated violence. In recent days, Trump administration officials have used those terms to describe people who criticize Israel's military action in Gaza. Obviously, Columbia University campus has been thrust into chaos following the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. We knew this was going to be happening. Rubio said the administration would keep looking for people with student visas whom they wouldn't have let into this country had we known they were going to do what they have done. Now, again, as I just read, it seems like the Palestinian Leka, like her visa expired or was terminated for lack of attendance. I don't know. I have no updates on that, so I will not speak on that. But like, this is really chilling and really wild. And it doesn't matter. Look, the university should be the ones protecting these students. Period, full stop, end of sentence. Like, this is on the universities to actually protect their students, especially when they know that what the students are doing is exercising their First Amendment rights, right? Like this, you're in the United States. That is a law. That should be protected. This is a constitutional right. You're here in the US. It doesn't matter if you're on a student visa. Here, we respect the right to freedom of speech. Or are we suddenly not here anymore because you are on a student visa? You're just, you're on an island to yourself. Are we operating on Israeli law now? Are we going to put these people through like a military court system? Is that what's going to happen? And let's remember that it is a bunch of shadowy and very scary actors who are working behind the scenes to rat out people who they believe are Palestine protesters, again, in support of the Palestinian people, against genocide, against the murder, against the maiming, against the bombing of hospitals, against what all international bodies and human rights organizations have called war crimes. There are organizations who are ratting them out and to this administration, to this regime. So this is from The Guardian. Pro-Israel group said it has a, quote, deportation list and has sent thousands of names to Trump officials. One of the many groups, we know Canary Mission works on U.S. college campuses, but Betar U.S. is among far-right groups supporting Trump efforts to deport students involved in pro-Palestine protests. A far-right group that claimed credit for the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil is seeking to deport, claims it has submitted thousands of names for similar treatment. Betar U.S. is one of a number of right-wing pro-Israel groups that are supporting the administration's efforts to deport international students involved in university pro-Palestinian protests, an effort that escalated this week with the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. This week, Donald Trump said Khalil's arrest was just the first of many to come, and Betar US quickly claimed credit on social media for providing Khalil's name to the government. Betar, which has been labeled an extremist group by the ADL, the ADL, which also has condemned Mahmoud Khalil, the ADL, which is super Zionist, super pro-Israel. If you say anything, they are the first to, sadly, the ADL, which should be an organization that talks about anti-Semitism, separate from any criticism of Israel. We should have watchdog organizations that tell us about real anti-Semites, the likes of whom were storming the Capitol on January 6th and wearing Holocaust denial sweatshirts, the likes of whom are on Twitter right now trolling people with Holocaust denial memes and all kinds of heinous things, the kinds of groypers that love Donald Trump and Elon Musk, the kinds of people like Elon Musk who are throwing up Heil Hitler salutes and Steve Bannon who are doing it, right? Those are the places, those are the anti-Semites we should actually be focusing on. But the ADL, again, historically hasn't, and even for the ADL, Betar is too far. They warn that the effort would extend beyond immigrants, expect naturalized citizens to start being picked up within the month, the group posted on X. The group has compiled a so-called deportations list, naming individuals it believes are in the U.S. on visas and have participated in pro-Palestinian protests, claiming these individuals, quote, terrorize America. A Betar spokesperson, Daniel Levy, said in a statement to The Guardian that Betar submitted thousands of names as to, imagine, admitting this. This guy is like, oh, yeah, we did it. They submitted thousands of names of students and faculty they believe to be on visas from institutions like Columbia. These are the same groups that have gotten students, not just students on visas, y'all. That's just who they're targeting because it's easier to target them. But people have lost jobs. Students have been suspended. These are 17 and 18-year-olds, you guys. 17 and 18-year-olds have lost jobs, have been suspended, have had their faces and names and addresses and phone numbers plastered up onto billboards outside of their universities. Okay, they've again, and it doesn't stop here. It keeps on going. Okay, it's come for many, many, many people. It ranges from hardcore right wingers who support Israel and liberal Zionists who support Israel, that just think that if you support Palestinians or you don't want, a genocide to continue, that you should be doxxed and you should lose your job and you should lose your platform and you support Hamas. The group claims to have documentation, including tapes, social media, and more to support their actions. It claims to be, you know who's got claims to support their actions? People who are against genocide. I got a few videos. I don't know if you want to see them. I got a few photos of premature babies dying in their incubators because Israel cut off the electricity to them. I got a few photos of pregnant women being gunned down. I got a few photos of homes being bulldozed. I got a few videotapes of the IDF open firing on peaceful protesters. I got a few videos of hospitals being bombed, of emergency workers being bombed, of journalists being targeted. Got a few eyewitnesses. I love this. Oh, we've got video evidence of what? What are they doing? Are they waving a Palestinian flag? Watch the Palestinian flag is next. You wear a Palestinian flag pin, you put up a Palestinian flag, you say free Palestine, that's going to be considered hate speech very, very soon. It is on all of us, but especially, and thank God for the brave and beautiful Jewish activists who have been leading this fight. It is specifically on Jewish Americans to stand up against this. And it is on little turds like Chuck Schumer, who when he stands up or says, I don't think, maybe Netanyahu's not a good guy, he gets called a Palestinian to say, I don't mind being called a Palestinian because that is not a slur. The White House and State Department didn't respond. Ross Glick, who was the executive director of the U.S. chapter of Betar until last month, told The Guardian the list began forming last fall. He noted that when they started compiling names, it was unclear who the next president would be, but that the change in administrations has been beneficial to their initiative. During the 2024 presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly vowed to deport foreign students involved in pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses and frequently framed demonstrations against Israel's actions in Gaza as expressions of support for Hamas. Last week, again, they reported that they were going to use AI to identify foreign students for deportation. The arrest of Khalil last week, who served as the lead negotiator for the Gaza Solidarity Encampment at Columbia University, aligned with Trump's executive order. This is so sick. Yeesh. Is this Glick? Oh, God. Oh, God. That is a scary looking motherfucker. That is a scary ass motherfucker. He's with Ted Cruz here. I'm sorry if you're just listening, but just imagine he's dressed all in black, his buttons unbuttoned, and a Star of David hat. Listen to Bad Hasbara for all the analysis. Listen to my interviews with Naomi Klein. Read Naomi Klein's most recent book, Doppelganger, if you want to just understand like where this aesthetic really originates from. It is creepy. Pro-Israel social media accounts, including that of Shai Davidai, a vocal assistant professor at Columbia's Business School, who was temporarily barred from campus last year after the school said he repeatedly intimidated and harassed university employees, identified Khalil and tagged Rubio in posts urging him to revoke his visa and deport him. The video of Khalil that was circulated was first posted on by Canary Mission, an online database that publishes the names and personal information of people it considers to be anti-Israel or anti-Semitic, focusing mainly on those at universities across the U.S. When Khalil was arrested, Canary Mission said that it was delighted that our exposure of Mahmoud Khalil's hatred has led to such deserved consequences, and adding that more Columbia news is on the way. This is on Columbia University. This is on their board of trustees. This is on all the alumni. This is on everyone to stand up for these students. They cannot allow a fascist authoritarian regime to run roughshod over their rights, over their students, to politicize this. And they've been paving the way again, as I've said this for a year now, that it is on these universities who have acquiesced to the right-wing framing that somehow anti-genocide demonstrators are anti-Semitic, okay? With literally no evidence. They did not harm pro-Israel groups. In fact, over here in UCLA, pro-Israel groups beat the crap out of those who were demonstrating and those who were at the encampment at UCLA. What did the cops do? What did the UCLA campus police do? They stood by and watched. I'm sorry, where are all the Palestinian protesters and all the pro-Palestine protesters beating up Jewish students and pro-Israel students? Never mind that they are Jewish students. Where are those videos? I didn't see any. They don't exist. They don't exist. You know, the last thing I'll say on this is I last night on America Unhinged, we spoke to the wonderful representative Summer Lee, and she said something about, you know, proportional accountability. And I do think that the greatest amount of accountability here relies and rests on the Democratic Party, on those who would take money from the Israel lobby, and on college administrators and boards of trustees who are throwing their students under the bus. I want to name that number 1, 2, 3, right? But I also want to name that those of us rightfully incensed by the amount of bloodshed and the genocide happening, that the argument that there is nothing worse than this, that it doesn't get worse, it always gets worse, guys. It always gets worse. And as someone who took a lot of flack and still does take flack, you just check my Instagram. Libs hate me because they think I didn't vote for Kamala. Lefties hate me because they think I voted for Kamala. While universities did not do enough to support their students, Joe Biden was also not talking about deporting those who had student visas. So these are small shades of gray, of distinction. It is hard to hear, especially as we see Democrats completely folding over And it's not to say we cannot do better in the future with our elected leaders. Butcher Biden laid it all on the line for his boy Bibi Netanyahu, who never, ever was going to love him back and always wanted Donald Trump in there. But when it comes to wielding our votes defensively, I will always stand on the side of doing that. Okay? You cannot X yourself out of this equation. You cannot do that. And if you know enough, and I'm not saying, first of all, the reason that Kamala lost because people did not feel like she was like fighting for them. And the genocide had a lot to do with it. So I'm not saying that like your average voter is going to get excited or like, but for those who pay attention to politics, for those of you who like maybe you're the go-to person in your family, in your community, or even on social media, again, it does get worse. It is worse. This amount of crackdown on free speech is not something that Biden was going to weaponize the DHS to do. The pieces were there. Don't get me wrong. All the anti-Semitism bills that Democrats voted for, including AOC, these are all pieces. But all it takes, and Democrats love to do this, they love to build. They do it all, but they don't light the match, right? And then a Republican comes in and they light the match, and the lighter fluid fueled little house of cards that the Democrats help build, is a flame. I do not dispute that. But it's like, good God, we really need to understand that even though we are small, the left does have a role to play, and we cannot flatten some of these shades of difference between some of these candidates. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do